1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters don't move, whatever click you choose.
So let's get into today's video. And actually, right now, I don't even know what I'm going to title this video, but this video is going to be based on pretty much somewhat like an update on a story that I told on my channel several years ago. Now, the story was about an individual who was in jail for murder, and unbeknownst to him, he had also befriended and was interacting pretty much on a daily basis with someone else who was in jail for murdering his own brother. And upon going on a visit one day, because the dude who was charged with murdering his brother, his name was Jay. This individual, his name was Jacob. And in the original video that I made, sometimes like I do in certain situations where I don't necessarily want to expose anybody or put someone's, business out there, I'll change the name. So in that video, I think I called those dudes Dre and David. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll change names, but I'll change the names to be somewhat similar in sound or in rhyme to the original people. That way it's easier for me to tell the story without accidentally inserting their real names, because when you're telling a story and you're being truthful in the story, of course you're going to tell the story like you remember it, and sometimes you accidentally slip and say the person's real name. So instead of calling the dude Jay, I would call him Dre, and instead of calling him Jacob, I would call him David. But the reason now that I'm putting the real names into the story is because Jacob has been released from prison, and he has actually made a documentary about this specific event in which I talked about. I just happened to watch it last night. I had heard about it a while ago, and I heard that he was out, and it is a very, very profound story, and it's a very inspiring story, and it shows a lot of growth and maturity. Now, the name of the story is the name of the documentary is called Songs from the Hole, and it's on Netflix. Let me just show you guys this news clip relating to that particular story.
A SoCal native incarcerated as a child spent 18 years behind bars. Now his story and the music he began writing in prison are at the heart of an award-winning film about family, forgiveness, and healing. Eyewitness News reporter Annabelle Munoz introducing us to JJ88 and Songs from the Hole.
Music has been a part of JJ88's life for as long as he can remember. But over the years, where he's found it has been drastically different, from growing up in church to growing up in prison.
I took the life of a young man. He was 21 years old. I was charged with murder and convicted of second-degree murder, and sentenced to 40 years to life plus life by the time I was 16.
3 days after he killed that young man, his older brother was killed in an unrelated act of violence.
By the time I was like 19, 20 years old, I was in a depression, I was suicidal, I was angry and hopeless.
I'd lay on the floor, make beats on my chest.
It was in solitary confinement that 88, a Long Beach and Bellflower native, began penning the lyrics describing his turmoil and hope.
Music saved my life in that it is the tool that I use to process my life.
The songs he wrote are now the vehicle for the Netflix documentary titled Songs from the Hole. The music film chronicles his path to prison, healing, and freedom.
I can't breathe, I can't
including coming face to face with the person who killed his brother and choosing forgiveness.
Meeting Jay not only enabled me to forgive him, but it enabled me to forgive myself.
California Governor Gavin Newsom commuted 88's sentence in 2020, recognizing his transformative work. Ultimately, he was resentenced and released in 2022. 88's healing journey was not only in solitude, but in community with the people in prison he came to call brothers. It's fitting some of the first people to see the film were those who might relate to it the most.
We're accountable to our community first. We showed this film in prisons all over the country for 1.5 years before it came out on Netflix.
In communities that are deeply impacted by the themes in the film, and have seen how much it's resonated with people, how much it's moved them, how much it's shifted their perspective and helped them heal.
Producer Richie Reseda and 88 first met while incarcerated. They recorded the music in prison, eventually reproducing it in this room.
This was like our first time being in freedom and being able to work on the same music.
When I stand in these matters that matter, I'm in the fifth ones in the matter. That's why you can feel it, we feel it, these pivotal matters.
The music brings listeners into an individual and collective story.
So Songs from the Hole is an LA County story because LA County is one of the biggest incarcerators in the world. There are 58 counties in California, but almost half of everybody in California prisons comes from right here in LA.
It was on the walls of Men's Central Jail that they projected this quote from the film: "Healing can never be found in someone else's punishment."
The point of our film and the point of us projecting the message of the film on the building is that healing is more complex than punishment can hold.
They stress their art is an extension of the humanity and talent among those still incarcerated.
I am doing some good in this world. I can see clearly how my art is impacting people.
Annabelle Munoz, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Songs from the Hole is now up for Grammy consideration.
JJ88. Yeah. Best of luck.
And so once again, I implore you guys, man, to go check that story out. It's a very deep, well-told story, right? And he in that story, he goes through, you know, his entire situation, and it starts from him being in prison, and he goes through it. He implements his family into the story and talks about some of the things that he went through, and he also implements some of his music into the story. He's a very talented artist, right? And I definitely want you guys to go check it out. So this morning I briefly went back and took a look at the story that I did on this situation. Now, in watching the documentary last night and then looking at the story that I did several years ago, it seems like I have a few minor details wrong, right? But sometimes, like I told you guys, sometimes your information, like some of that information that I did came from the dude Jay, and then some of the information came from, you know, just hearing certain things on the yard because I wasn't in that particular building with those individuals, right? So I pretty much got the meat part of the story right? Just a few details about how long Jacob was actually free before his brother was killed. I had that wrong and things like that, right? But, you know, I know in the comment section, right? I looked in the comment section again this morning, and I seen a lot of individuals saying, you know, what they would have done had they encountered someone who had killed their brother in prison or a sibling or something like that, you know. And it's a cold situation, and it's a cold choice to make, right? Because I think I seen somewhere either in an interview or it had to be in an interview, because Jacob 88, which is his rapping name, or JJ 88, he's done several interviews on several different YouTube platforms. And so if you just look JJ 88, I believe he was on Back on Fig. I believe he was on Back on Fig, and it's several things on YouTube, right, that you can pop up. I mean, that you can research and it'll pop up. And I believe he said that immediately after he got arrested, he stopped gangbanging. You know, he saw that, he basically realized that what he done was wrong, and committing a crime like that was not something that his spirit was right with. And so he immediately stopped gangbanging, right? And so later on down the line, when he encounters the individual who killed his brother, he's on a path of righteousness and forgiveness, because he also is in prison for a murder. And so, basically his philosophy and ideology was, at the end of the day, if he wants to be forgiven, he has to forgive someone else, even though it's hard because that someone else killed his brother. And so it's definitely a difficult situation when you are in it, as opposed to looking out on the outside and talking about what you would do. But I definitely think that you guys should go watch the story. Once again, the name of that story is called Songs from the Hole. And so it's a very, very good documentary. He gets really in depth, and it's really an eye-opening situation, right? And he says, and I don't want to give away the documentary, a whole lot of it, right? But honestly, I run across a lot of individuals who tell me that they watch me sometimes with their younger family, younger sons and so on and so forth. And for those individuals that do that, I implore you to sit down with your younger sons and let them see this documentary. One thing he says in the documentary, Jacob 88 or JJ 88, that I think is very, very profound, right? And it shouldn't be missed. He was a gang member up until the time he was charged for this murder. And he goes on to speak about, up until that point, he really wanted a reputation in the street. He really wanted to shoot somebody and get his reputation up. And that was something that he was looking to do, because sometimes those are the accolades that we chase in the street. And upon doing that, when he went back to his homie's house who had gave him the gun, there was no accolades. Everybody was basically like, man, you dummy. What did you do? What the hell did you do? And he's only 15, 16 at the time he commits that murder, right? And so he doesn't get the type of response that he thought that he would receive, right? And so to me, it was very profound, because later on he goes on to talk about now he doesn't want that lifestyle. He wants to go home and so on and so forth. And he also said something that was very profound without giving away a whole lot. He said when he got sentenced to 40 years to life plus life at the age of 15 or 16, he turned and he looked at his lawyer and he was like, so when do I go home? So he didn't understand at all the ramifications of what was going on and what he had actually got himself into. And then let me bounce back to him returning to his homeboy's house, and all his homies basically telling him like, man, you done messed up. This is not a rap song. This is not where you can kill somebody in a song and then go back to your life. So it's crazy how the thing that as gang members we will chase the most, as far as murders and reputations in the street, and then when we finally do that, everybody else that's around us making it seem like that lifestyle is cool. Now they don't want nothing to do with you. They say, hey man, damn, you didn't kill somebody, man. You didn't messed up. So pretty much what I gathered from that was he was saying that basically this gang banging stuff is fake. It's something that everybody sits around talking about like they really want it, trying to impress the next individual, but when they get it, they really don't want it. And so it's really a cold situation, right? And once again, he talked about being determined to get out there in the streets and catch a body and get his reputation up. But it's something that, once again, you know, once we get into that type of predicament, it's something that we really don't want, because now we see how the rest of our life is going to be altered around that situation, man. So one last time, you have to go to Netflix. The name of the documentary is called Songs in the Hole, and I really, really think you guys should check it out. Anyway, man, you already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to Life. Resume normal program.